In the corridors where the footsteps of ambassadors and spies echoed, true power was not always in the hands of kings or generals. Sometimes it was a woman who, with an imperceptible gesture, decided the fate of a war. An open fan at the right moment could be a call to attack, a brooch gleaming under candlelight, a coded message. They wore no armor, yet their weapons were wit, persuasion, and secrecy. Amid bedchamber intrigues, diplomatic banquets, and solemn masses, they wove an invisible web that crossed borders and altered treaties. These women did not simply listen, they influenced, manipulated, and, at times, saved entire empires without spilling a single drop of blood. In the palace halls of the Habsburg court, every whisper carried the weight of gold, and every glance could seal alliances or unleash betrayals. It was the reign of Philip II, and Spain ruled an empire stretching from Flanders to the New World. But beneath the gleam of Flemish tapestries and the shimmer of silver mirrors, webs of information were spun, networks as decisive as any army. The success of a campaign or the signing of a treaty often depended on a coded message, a stolen confidence in a secluded chamber, or the cunning of a woman who, disguising her ambition as courtly charm, could outmaneuver even the most seasoned advisors. The ladies of the court had privileged access to salons reserved for the highest dignitaries. Their presence raised no suspicion. They embodied etiquette, taste, and virtue. They wore brocades, lace, and imported silks. They studied Latin, music, poetry, and rudimentary cryptography. In the embroidery of their fans, the patterns of their veils, or the verses engraved on swan feather quills, they concealed codes as effective as any fortress. A fan tipped with red might signal danger. A crescent moon-shaped brooch could mean wait or confirmed. While men debated strategies behind closed doors, some women wove threads of intelligence few could imagine. The ladies-in-waiting, tasked with accompanying the Queen or the Infanta, moved among the European nobility, French, English, Flemish. Every whispered confidence at a dance or exchanged after Mass could end in a discreet word whispered into a royal advisor's ear. This was not mere courtly curiosity. It was about winning battles, warning in advance of the approach of the Spanish Armada or of a secret pact forming in Venice. However, the game was a dangerous one. In counter-Reformation Spain, any hint of heresy or treason could bring down the feared hand of the Inquisition. A woman accused would lose her honor, and with it, her position and her life. That's why female spies moved with the caution of a dancer. Carefully chosen contacts, coded notes hidden in perfume bottles, handkerchiefs bearing nearly invisible monograms. They relied on bonds of blood and trust, sisters, cousins, close friends, who discreetly formed trusted cells. Only among themselves did they share the mystery of the codes. A simple teardrop-shaped brooch could mean urgent. A strand of hair deliberately left behind in a room. Enemy surveillance. In the corridors of the Alcazar of Madrid, where the soft music of a lute accompanied refined conversations, the first great network of female espionage was born. Ladies from the highest noble houses, such as Ana de Mendoza, Princess of Eboli, became key nodes. Ana, famous for her sharp wit and bold character, managed to leak intelligence about enemy fleets that triggered alerts at the royal court. She paid the price with house arrest, but her example inspired others. In nearby convents, cloistered nuns copied letters from fleeing officers and passed them along through maids trained in smuggling scrolls. Encrypted letters traveled wrapped in silk, hidden in hollow canes or inside the cavities of bell clappers, forged for that very purpose. Even court troubadours carried seemingly innocent verses that, when read with the proper key, revealed troop positions or details of conspiracies. Each technique became more refined. Letter substitutions, numerical ciphers based on biblical passages, and color codes embedded in the gemstones of jewelry. The palace thus became a chessboard. In one hand, official letters sealed with royal wax. In the other, a handful of coded fans and handkerchiefs. A glance from a balcony could gauge the mood of a foreign ambassador. A casual phrase, "The wind blows from the north," might mean France is preparing an attack. And behind those signs, there was always a woman willing to risk her position, her honor, and sometimes her life. The court of Madrid, with its labyrinth of galleries and salons, offered 1,000 hiding places, ornamental fountains where notes were deposited, secluded gardens for secret meetings, side chapels turned into improvised offices. In those shadowy corners, a lady exchanged parchments with a maid, and a soldier retrieved coded messages during banquets filled with music and laughter. The walls remained silent, but in the end, the king and his counselors knew everything. To understand the role of women on this board is to dive into a story of courage and conviction. This wasn't espionage driven solely by personal ambition. Many saw it as a patriotic duty to warn the good ruler of looming threats. They saw themselves as protectors of the empire, guardians of faith and stability. Though official rewards were scarce, a discreet compliment, a hidden favor, the satisfaction of saving lives and influencing key decisions was the true prize. Thus, in the silence of a Gothic gallery or beneath the murmur of a Renaissance fountain, a clandestine game began, one where swords were replaceable, but knowledge was invincible. Female intrigue ceased to be mere rumor and became a decisive weapon. Philip II, a man of iron will, recognized this and established a royal courier cabinet specialized in deciphering messages. The Inquisition, for its part, intercepted suspicious dispatches but never managed to unmask all of the most skilled spies. Now that we've glimpsed the setting and understood the rules of the game, we are ready to meet the protagonists, those women of steel who, with subtlety and daring, altered the course of history in a world ruled by masks and appearances. In the next chapter, we will explore their lives, their motivations, and the specific episodes that made them essential to the machinery of power. Prepare to discover how behind every fan hid a code, and behind every glance, a word that could save a kingdom. Under the Spanish Golden Age, where power was woven through palace corridors and intrigue danced to the rhythm of international alliances, there emerged women whose resolve and cunning defied the conventions of their time. Ana de Mendoza, known as the Princess of Eboli, was a magnetic figure. Her eye patch and her voice, soft yet unwavering, whispered secrets capable of altering the course of history. Born into a noble lineage that opened the gates of King Philip II's court, it was her ability to move effortlessly among French and English diplomats that made her the center of a spy network unlike any other. Through halls scented with incense and the sound of lutes, Ana wove hidden alliances. Her confidants, mostly men hardened by the arts of disguise and forged letters, brought her reports on enemy fleets, peace negotiations, and whispers of heresy. When rumors of the Armada's imminent attack on England reached her, the Princess of Eboli read between the lines, sensing the ambition of royal advisors. She leaked the key intelligence just in time for the king's enemies to prepare defenses beyond the English Channel. That episode sealed her legend, but also her fate. Under house arrest in Pastrana, Ana spent the rest of her days reminding the monarch that even the most absolute power has cracks through which the most revealing truths may escape. Under house arrest in Pastrana, many wondered why a Spanish woman so loyal to the crown would leak such crucial information. The answer lies in the tangled chessboard of Philip II's court. Ana de Mendoza did not betray Spain. She maneuvered within a web of personal loyalties and rival factions. Her marriage and swift rise provoked distrust among royal advisors, and sharing accurate intelligence was, in the eyes of the princess, a way to balance power, countering overly influential ministers and ensuring the monarchy did not fall victim to a one-sided victory. Moreover, the Hispanic monarchy, relied on fragile pacts with other powers. Alerting others about the Armada's movements allowed pressure to be applied in peace and trade negotiations without triggering total war. Finally, in an environment where an accusation of heresy could strip away honor and life, weaving networks, even with rivals, ensured escape routes and future favors. Thus, Anna turned espionage into a patriotic and personal art, reminding the monarch that, for an empire to endure, it must sometimes use its own cracks as passageways to survival and balance. Meanwhile, in silent convents and courtly festivities, other lesser-known but equally fascinating stories were unfolding. Maria de Cazalla, daughter of a family linked to the Inquisition, found refuge in the cloisters of La Rioja, where nuns embroidered delicate lace and recited poetry in Latin. With skill, she transformed sonnets into coded messages, replacing key words with floral metaphors or numbers hidden in the rhythm of the verses. In a decisive moment, a letter intended for an ambassador in Genoa was intercepted by a royal censor. Its contents shook a trade treaty with Venice, forcing the crown to renegotiate clauses that favored Spanish-Italian merchants. Catalina de Zúñiga, for her part, moved gracefully through Madrid's salons, with closed fans tucked under her arm. She had learned to draw tiny symbols on the fans, using almost invisible stitches, only readable by someone within her own network of conspirators. A green thread in the corner signaled early warning, while a discreet red dot marked the path of key messengers. When one of her letters was intercepted, a diplomatic incident broke out between Castile and Flanders. Catalina preserved her honor by cutting away the evidence that tied her name to the affair and fleeing into voluntary exile in Lisbon, where she continued weaving secrets within the shelter of unknown walls. These individual stories converged into a broader network of female cells operating alongside male spies, ambassadors, and merchants. Beneath the guise of camaraderie in salons scented with incense and the music of lutes, alliances of trust emerged where maids and convent sisters acted as messengers. Heads bowed, hands discreet. They met in the shadows of carpeted corridors, exchanging objects with hidden compartments. Small chests within larger ones, fans concealing messages in their ribs, snuff boxes modified to house folded parchments. More than one lady of the court, renowned for her embroidery skills, proudly hid meeting coordinates or lists of allies in each stitch. A simple handkerchief folded at a particular angle on the table signaled that the next rendezvous would take place in a cloistered convent, far from official ears. Collaboration with male spies ensured the information traveled across mountains and even reached distant ports. Gentlemen invited to royal hunts became high-speed couriers, carrying folded memos hidden in the soles of their boots. Some passed through Catalina de Zúñiga's network to receive instructions on silk cloths, others through Maria de Cazalla's hidden codices to decode literary ciphers. The result was a steady flow of intelligence that informed palace decisions. The choice of an alliance, the postponement of a gunpowder shipment, the release of political prisoners. But this astonishing machinery of espionage came at a price. The honor of a noblewoman was as valuable a treasure as any state secret. The risk of being exposed could cost them not only their reputation, but also their freedom, and even their lives. The Inquisition lurked around every corner, and a single misstep, such as signing an encrypted letter with the wrong monogram, could lead to accusations of heresy or high treason. That is why the female network upheld a strict code of ethics. Oaths sealed with saffron blood, vows of silence engraved during secret dusk ceremonies. Only the most loyal were entrusted with the greatest secrets, while novices were limited to transmitting low-priority messages. Despite the danger, the effectiveness of these women left an indelible mark on the court. Their rudimentary tactics, a system of simple ciphers, substitutions with everyday symbols, and the use of harmless-looking objects as message carriers, proved that the true art of espionage lay in disguising the extraordinary within the seemingly trivial. While men deployed armies and negotiated treaties in broad daylight, these women of steel worked in the shadows, moving invisible pieces that tipped the scales of power. The story of these fearless ladies did not end with a single reign. They inspired writers of the Spanish Golden Age, such as Lope de Vega and Calderon, who portrayed in their comedies and tragedies female characters who, behind a fan or a portrait, harbored secrets powerful enough to change kingdoms. In Baroque paintings and plays, the silhouette of a lady with feathers and letters became an unforgettable archetype, a symbol of cunning and bravery that echoed through future generations. Thus, while the kingdom bled through wars and signed treaties on marble tables, the active shadows traced by Ana de Mendoza, Maria de Cazalla, Catalina de Zúñiga, and their companions continued to weave a legend that endures in the popular imagination. Their early methods, trusted couriers, literary ciphers, family networks, laid the groundwork for modern cryptography and espionage. And though today their names may carry a romantic echo, behind every calculated gesture and cautious glance, there unfolded a drama of wit and courage that changed the course of history. As we close this chapter of intrigue and courage, the lessons remain alive. In the hidden art of espionage, subtlety surpasses brute force, and the best-kept secret is the one disguised within daily routine. With that legacy, we now prepare to explore the tools that shaped these networks, examining the tactics, technologies, and ethical dilemmas that would mark a turning point in the art of clandestine information. Beneath the veil of courtly shadows, where the halls smelled of incense and the soft rustle of stoles concealed furtive steps, the women who wove networks of information mastered a true hidden art filled with wit and danger. Their tools were not only swords or daggers, but rudimentary cipher strategies and everyday objects that went unnoticed by the watchful eyes of guards. With the precision of a goldsmith, they transformed fans, snuff boxes, and fine handkerchiefs into genuine carriers of secrets. Every fold of a fan, every stitch in embroidery, or every tiny compartment of a snuff box bore invisible inscriptions, words replaced by numbers, floral metaphors that, when read with the correct key, revealed meeting dates and names of contacts. In many cases, the ciphers used were as simple as an alphabetical substitution, A for D, B for E, and so on, so that those who mastered the correspondence exchanged notebooks with equivalence tables that looked like calligraphy exercises. Other times, they used polyalphabetic ciphers, combining several tables to make decryption more difficult for anyone intercepting the letters. The boldest applied the double messenger method, in which the same message traveled in two separate pieces. The first contained the encryption key, and the second, the encrypted text. Only the recipient, bringing both together, could understand the complete content. But beyond the hidden letters, female spies resorted to mechanical devices based on everyday objects. Snuff boxes and spice containers had a lid and a base between which tiny scrolls could be slipped. Noble ladies wore necklaces with hollow pendants, capable of housing miniature cylinders of rolled paper. On the table of a royal salon, a fan folded in a certain way signaled the level of urgency. A handkerchief folded into 3 peaks indicated that the information had to be delivered inside a convent. Each code was inscribed in the language of the everyday, mingled with the protocol of etiquette, to pass unnoticed as mere ornamentation. Yet this meticulous carving of secrets carried the weight of honor and the terror of betrayal. Under the shadow of the Inquisition and the counselors loyal to the throne, each lady took an oath of silence. They knew that an uncontrolled leak of information was a political disaster, but a premature decryption could mean the ruin of a family or the gallows. The morality of these women was forged in contradictions. They fought for the crown, and yet could oppose its decisions. They loved their homeland, but were aware of its excesses. The line between treason and loyalty blurred when the common good demanded clandestine maneuvers. In this theater of shadows, the Inquisition acted as an unyielding judge. A single intercepted letter that failed to conform to orthodoxy could lead to torture and the auto-da-fe. For this reason, the spies cultivated blood pacts and secret ceremonies beneath oil lamps. Before each mission they swore an oath, pricking a finger with a pin and sharing the drop of blood as a symbol of confidentiality. Thus, only those initiated into the greater mysteries knew the precise geographic location of allies, while novices handled less compromising tasks, such as sending coded greetings hidden within the verses of sonnets, or health recommendations disguised as etiquette advice. Despite the constant danger, the effectiveness of these information networks left an indelible mark. The Crown learned that a well-encrypted message could prevent ambushes, anticipate enemy movements, and save entire fleets. The replacement of words with floral symbols inspired tribunals of masters of the word, who would later refine Renaissance cipher systems, paving the way for more sophisticated techniques in the centuries to come. The use of harmless objects as message carriers planted the seed for microfilming and modern counterintelligence departments. Over time, the chroniclers of the Spanish Golden Age, fascinated by these enigmatic figures, immortalized them in comedies and tragedies. Lope de Vega painted across the Madrid sky the profile of a lady who, behind her fan, concealed more power than a monarch. Calderon brought to the Baroque stage women who, with a single piece of jewelry, could change the fate of nations. Oil paintings depicted ladies with quills and letters, seated at mahogany desks under the glow of candelabras, a nod to the double life they led. In time, the legend of the court spy became a romantic archetype that survived the oblivion of their real names. The resonance of these feminine intrigues reached later literature. Mystery and adventure novels set in European courts revived the figure of the cunning lady, bringing back rudimentary methods such as coded riddles and relics with hidden compartments. In certain 18th century cryptography treatises, reference was made to the spies of the House of Austria as precursors of techniques now officially used in diplomatic corps. Their snuff boxes, folds of fans, and embroidery stitches were studied in military academies as examples of camouflaged cryptography. Nevertheless, the tale of these women does not end with their own exploits. Behind every coded arrow and every secret coffer lies a legacy that crossed borders and eras. When the Bourbons took the throne and the European wars changed their face, the apprentices of espionage had already mastered more complex codes, replacing letters with key words, embedding messages within musical scores, and using pigments invisible to the naked eye. The hidden art was recorded in the manuals of Bertin and Falconet, as well as in English and French cryptography treatises, an indelible trace of Hispanic audacity. As the centuries passed, the avenues of the Golden Age transformed into modern streets, and stone castles gave way to stone buildings illuminated by gas lamps. Yet the lesson remains: information is power, and its true value lies in the method by which it is hidden and revealed. The subtlety of a homemade cipher, the apparent innocence of a fan, or the false innocence of a handkerchief, turned into a coffer, reflect the human ingenuity devoted to protecting what is most valuable: the truth. Today, as historians dust off old archives and novelists revisit ancient intrigues, the spirit of those women of steel endures. Their primary tactics, simple ciphers, creative use of everyday objects, and family networks of messengers, became the foundations of modern cryptography and the raw material for intelligence agencies. Their ethics, forged in blood oaths and moral exceptions, fuel current debates about the limits of espionage. How far can the defense of a state go without betraying the values it claims to protect? As we close this chapter, we glimpse an open horizon where the tools of the hidden art evolve without losing their essence. In our next encounter, we will explore how these rudimentary techniques gave way to mechanical and digital systems, how morality adapts to new dilemmas, and how the shadow of those pioneers continues to inspire the guardians of clandestine information. For in the art of espionage, As in life itself, history is not only what happened, but how we choose to remember it and use it in our own time. Under the dim light of an imagined twilight, we pause for a moment to contemplate the legacy of those women who, armed only with wit and discretion, wove in the shadows the threads of power. Their names may have faded with the passing of centuries, but the echo of their courage endures in every cipher, in every everyday object that once served as a coffer for secrets capable of changing the course of empires. We have seen how fans became hidden messages, snuff boxes turned into chests of vital information, and handkerchiefs into guides for clandestine meetings. Behind every gesture of courtesy, every rehearsed smile in perfumed halls, beat the determination of women willing to defy the unwritten rules of honor and loyalty. Today, we understand that the art of espionage was not born of bullets or cannons, but of subtlety, of the ability to blend the extraordinary into the mundane. That lesson, forged in the Golden Age and carried forward through generations, lives on in our encrypted communication methods and in the ethics of those who manage the flow of information. As we close this journey, we must remember that the defense of a nation does not depend solely on armies or treaties, but also on the cunning concealed in an embroidery, in a verse, or in the ironclad alliances of women who knew how to disguise their courage in the most delicate details. Let this epilogue serve as a reflection. True power lies in the knowledge hidden behind the veil of the everyday, and courage in those who dare to explore it. As the doors of history close behind these protagonists, we carry with us their legacy, that tireless curiosity and that iron will, which in the murmur of the shadows found a way to change the world. And so, as the curtain falls, the invitation remains open to ask ourselves, what secrets of the present await those willing to decipher them tomorrow?